This episode of the National Squash League podcast is brought to you by Dakota. Like the National Squash League, Dakota moves fast. Built in Philadelphia, driven by precision, and focused on performance at the highest level. Dakota is a financial, software, data, and media company powering the global investment ecosystem. Their flagship platform, Dakota Marketplace, helps teams raise capital, source deals, track peers, and access comprehensive data all in one place. Just as the NSL connects elite players, teams, and fans to grow the game, Dakota connects the people and information that move markets forward. Since 2006, Dakota's mission has been simple: help others get what they want out of life. And they're changing the game by putting service first. Learn more at dakota.com. Welcome to the National Squash League podcast presented by Dakota, changing the way capital's been raised since 2006. Today is April 12th, 2026, and Spencer, I think we have our first real major upset in NSL history that occurred this weekend, and you were lucky enough to be there live for it.
Yeah, it was an incredible match, honestly. And although we do not have official seedings or rankings in the NSL yet, in terms of we don't have an algorithm that predicts which team is better. Obviously, we have the rankings of the players and we can kind of calculate the average ranking. And on paper, it's impossible to see Greenwich not the favorite going into that match against Newport this weekend with, I don't know exactly what their average ranking is, but probably about 10 in the world.
Oh, yeah. No, it's 11. I can tell you. I got it for you. 11 for Greenwich.
Average ranking of 11 in the world.
And then for Newport, for the record, for Newport, it was 54.97. So it was 33, which is still not bad. That Newport team, to their credit, they were 33 versus 11. It's triple, but they're still really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say that this was probably one of our highest quality matches in terms of players playing. Probably highest average of all the players. I mean, it shows how far the league has come since our first season, which is really, really cool to have such high quality players playing. But yeah, it was, we'll talk about this later in the pod, but definitely a massive underdog win for Newport.
Yeah, and when the world needed an underdog so desperately, because Rory McIlroy won the Masters again, that was boring. I haven't even started to talk about Diego Elias versus Mustafa Asal. Not my job, not our pod. I'm going to stay in our lane. We're going to talk about Mustafa just in the NSL context today. But as always, let's start with any league news. Especially, honestly, you and I haven't really caught up that much because you were Mr. CEO this weekend up in Newport. But tell me what's going on in the NSL world.
Yeah, I mean, it's been busy since the last time we had our pod. It's been a couple weeks since then, so I'm sure all of our followers online have missed us, BG. But it's been a busy time in the NSL. We're working on a lot of things behind the scenes, which we're excited to announce, in the coming months. But for now, just focusing on really running the upcoming events this month. We've had 2 this past weekend. We have 5 more that coming up this month total. So it's a very busy month for us overall. So making sure each of these events is an awesome experience for our fans is obviously a high priority right now. But a cool bit of news, we had our first ever match live on TV in Chicago this past weekend on the Tennessee Valley Sports and Entertainment Network. So shout out to Home Team Network for getting us that opportunity to put our first ever match on live TV. And this is just the first step into a new frontier for the NSL. And we're expecting to continue to expand into more TV networks as we move forward. So, but very exciting. And people in Nashville were really pumped up about that. So,
wow. All right. So maybe I got to tap my local, Comcast Sportsnet. It's now NBC Philadelphia, but maybe I got to see if I can get a little late night action or something on for our match. That's cool. I mean, I'm actually be curious to see how that went. And it was Jackson and Sean. It was literally taken from the Home Team Network stream and put on their TV.
Yeah, that's how it works. Basically, the production company, it's just a linear feed basically of the match, and they can put it anywhere. So once the live stream is good to go, they can literally send it anywhere in the world. And it makes things a little bit more complicated. You have to make sure that things start on time, that things run according to how they should on TV, because TV networks get a little bit pissed off if you run overtime or they just cut you off if you're running overtime. But I will say the NSL format was made with TV in mind.
Hell yeah.
As we formed, the rules, it is the perfect format for live TV because it is a finite length, has defined breaks for ads and whatnot, and it's predictable in terms of the start and stop time. So it's cool to see all of that kind of foresight
Yeah.
coming to fruition now.
Well, look at it, Spencer. I'm not gonna lie. I had a couple things I wanted to congratulate you on in this portion of the podcast. The first being is I did the math actually during the Chicago match, and as of now, you have 15 of the top 20 men in the world playing in the NSL matches this year, and on the women's
Well, that's
side,
incredible.
13 of the
Actually, I
top
didn't.
20. So, congratulations to that. But more importantly, to your point, I wanted to congratulate you because these two matches from this weekend were the shortest time, and they were the closest to an hour and a half. I think it was an hour and 34, 35 for the Chicago, and then an hour and 41 for Newport Greenwich. And maybe that was because of the higher tin. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about that later. But clearly to run a show, everything is it's working to a T right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're tightening things up as we go. We're always fixing things every time we have a match, and it's very important that we make this product repeatable and obviously high quality, but also repeatable, and make sure that we can do it the same every time, and make sure that the crowd and the fans are getting the best experience possible every single time.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we're always tweaking the run of show, working on new things, working on bringing new elements into it. DJ Tucker was performing again in Newport and putting on a good show for the fans with his power play music. Everyone loved that in Newport.
Good.
So
Good. Yeah, Sean, I don't know. Again, you obviously didn't watch the stream. Yeah, Sean and Jackson, they were like overwhelmed by the noise. And I'm like, guys, this is what it's about. This is like, it's stressful. It's power play. And they were saying it's like the NBA. We talked about this on the podcast before. It felt like an NBA game, and I don't like it. I wish they would not let the music play. And I'm like, in the NBA, the players love the music, and it's the best. It really, it's supposed to bring the audience back in. Sean, he's just not a business mind.
yeah, clearly not. I'm gonna have to have a word with those two boys about the vision of the NSL
Yeah.
because I think the players actually really like it. They like music. They like being pumped up for the power play. The crowd loves it because they know like something different is happening here.
Right.
Because it's the only time that music is playing continuously during the match. So it's obvious, and it's non-lyrical music. We just do like beats or like EDM kind of like music.
Yeah.
So it obviously like you bring the BPMs up, and people know, okay, something is happening here. Like this is different than like what was before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get more into that because there were some incredible power plays this weekend as well, from both matches. But yeah, I really like this, the new trend we're going on with the music on the power plays.
Yeah.
So
unbelievable. Totally agree. All right. So any other news before we get into the matches?
no, that's all I got. So let's get straight into Nashville versus Chicago in Chicago.
Nashville and Chicago. And again, you didn't get the chance to watch this match. And I'm going to be honest, what happened with me. I actually really wasn't fully planning on watching the matches live. And to be honest, I actually wasn't able to watch this match live. I was able to watch Newport Greenwich live. But what happened was it was Saturday and beautiful weather here in Philadelphia. And I don't say this because they sponsored the NSL, but a moment overcame me, and I was like, I need a bottle of Mira wine. And I went for the Chardonnay, a little white on a little bit of a warmer day compared to what I'm used to, and the glasses were just going down smooth and smooth. And before I knew it, 2.5 glasses in, and I was putting my kids down. I was like, guys, let's watch some squash together, as we're supposed to be reading books and doing all that. My wife was with young George.
Starting them young, BG. Starting them young.
It was, and they were locked in. They were there. It was so fun, and then there was the music, and it was a big. It was the second period where it was coming down to the end. And again, I'm jumping the gun already, but needless to say, it was a very, very fun Saturday night for me, watching all the matches. Anyway, starting with
I love it. I mean,
Chicago.
it's awesome that we've created such a great entertainment product that you can really, hunker down and have a great glass of Mira wine and, just enjoy the squash. That's what the NSL is for,
I mean, it was
the NSL.
I was a billboard. I was a walking billboard. I'm like, I wasn't wearing any Philadelphia Lightning gear like I am now, but I was drinking my Mira. I was watching my squash, and I was like, this is the life. I'm on my triple monitor in my wife's office.
It doesn't get better.
It doesn't get any better. But anyway, Nashville versus Chicago on paper, let's go through it. Chicago's team, Team All Egypt. Again, on paper, Chicago should have absolutely thrashed Nashville. So with Kareem Gawad making his debut, world number 4, Mason Hesham, former world number 5, now world number 49, and Kareem El-Turki, world number 22. Unbelievable team. For Nashville, and I have a question for you, is Mustafa El-Serdi, world number 38, Sanjay Jiva, world number 62, and Francisco Marcantonio, world number 112. Hadn't heard of him before. Bill Buckingham was giving him a little bit of crap on his podcast, but we'll ignore that for now. But Ronald Palomino, any word? Was he injured? What was going on there?
Yeah, so I am not fully sure what happened with Palomino. He obviously lost to Salim Khan the week before in the World Qualifiers. Your player,
just making sure.
Your faithful
Lightning
player.
You mentioned it.
So I don't know. Maybe it was a bruised ego. Maybe it was an injury. I don't know. But yeah, Ronald was out, and Nashville actually had to make a trade. They made a trade that week. They dropped Azania, and they picked up Marc Antonio off of the waiver wire, which was a good pick for them. Honestly, I thought he performed very well throughout the match, which we'll talk about. But he is. I've played against him on tour before. He is honestly quite underrated based on his ranking. Lefty, strong, physical, hard to break down. But he doesn't get the chance to travel for many tournaments because he's from Paraguay, which is kind of out of the way. It's hard to get to some of the locations where there's a lot of big tournaments because of the location of the country. So I do think he's an underrated player and a good pick from Nashville there.
Yeah, I was very impressed. His score line doesn't show it, to be honest. He was actually a minus 17 overall in the match, but he had 2 tough power plays against him. He had an unbelievable second period, which we'll get to. But let's start in the first period. And again, I'm going to do this like I did in the most recent podcast. I'd like that sort of run of where, I'll share the score. Score was 20-17 for Chicago. And again, let's make sure we talk about this. Chicago had never won an NSL match or since the league actually properly started. This is their 3rd season, and they were 0-4 coming into this match. So first period, 2017 Chicago. The key moment was they were down 8-4. And then Kareem Gawad came on, and then before you knew it, he threw in a 10-1 run, including a power play. So Gawad had a power play. I don't know if he had watched how much of the NSL he'd watched before, if he was just well coached, but he did a great job of, when the ball was in the back and it was out of position, he just let it die, picked it up. He quickly took to the format. And I'll also say, whether it's the first period or not, Gawad got tired. There was one time where he called for his sub. I mean, he was hurting a little bit.
Yeah, and I think in terms of Gawad, his game is just so adaptable to any circumstance. And I think that despite not having played an NSL match before, his game is so adaptable. You could just throw him in any scenario and he'd kind of know what to do. Just because he's so fluid, he's so flowing, he has attacking ability, he has soft hands, he has defensive abilities. He can slow the game down, he can speed it up. Just such a weapon to have on your team, Kareem Abdel-Gawad.
Yeah, and I think, obviously Chicago wins this match 3-1, which we'll get to at the end, but the future is bright there in Chicago. I mean, they had their all-star team and the all-star, and again, even Mason Hesham, he was easy. I mean, you could see him sort of start to get it, and he was posting all about it on Instagram. So anyway, that was the first period, and I assume, again, you didn't see most of this match, but Mustafa El-Serdi is a force in this league, and the shots that he was hitting in every single period, it was, again, he's one of those players where his ranking doesn't know justice compared to where he sits in this league.
Yeah, and El-Serdi, he's becoming a bit of a staple of the NSL, and he's really making a name for himself in the league. Obviously, 2 very, very good performances this season, winning player of the match in his first performance in Nashville versus Louisville, and then putting up a very, very good performance in this match. Very, very impressed with him overall. And to speak about kind of his ranking, and again, we speak a lot about rankings and and stuff, but
I do.
The more we and it's it's good, obviously the rankings are important, but the more we kind of read into this stuff, the more the rankings just every time just go out the window. Because again, a team like Nashville should have no chance against a team like Chicago based on the rankings, but they almost won. They were 1 point away from winning.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that there's just so much more to this format, and we'll talk more about that in the Newport
Yeah.
versus Greenwich match because the same thing applied there, even to a higher degree.
Definitely.
But it really is so much. There is so much coaching involved. There's so much tactical analysis involved, and there is so much nuance.
Yeah.
So yeah, just want to put that out there before we continue.
Yeah, no, I already can't wait for Newport Greenwich. Not to take anything away from this match, because arguably this match was more exciting. So anyway, into the second
Definitely. Let's
period.
talk about the second period
Ye
here because the second period I did see the very end of it,
Yes.
which was exciting.
Second period, so yeah, well, it's funny, again, I'm trying to break it down into key moments, but this period and the next period, I have 3 separate key moments because while the final score was 20 to now, Mr. Commissioner, I'm putting you on the spot here. Is it 20 to 18 or is it 20 to 19?
So I saw 2019 because I thought that and Mark Antonio got the last serve off before time expired, but you know, uh, if someone has a complaint, they can come to my
You're
they can send me an email about it.
The film is there. I'm here to stir the pot. That's all I do, and I really hope I make your life difficult, Spencer. So I'm going to
Lovely.
say 20 to 18, just so I'm on the record for being right. But anyway, it did come down to 18 all and 17 all. But the key moments, and I'm cheating here, but to your point about Mustafa El Surdi, it was El Surdi versus Gawad to start the second period, and he won 11-8, and it was clinic. It was like both clinical squash, but also El Surdi taking advantage of the NSL format, the pressure of the time, and really shooting the lights out. I think Gawad was sort of in his PSA mode a little bit and was taking it easy, and Mustafa just kind of had his way with that court in Chicago.
Yeah, it's a tough court there in Chicago too. I mean, it's so cramped. The crowd is really right
Yeah.
on top of the court, which is really cool for the spectators.
Yeah.
Because they get to be right on top of the action. And it's a very intimate setting. So it was on the live stream. You could hear it. They were getting loud. They were really pumped up for the home team, and they were trying to get Chicago their first win.
Yeah.
So
No, it was fun, and yeah, the energy and all the texts of all the owners. I mean, it sounded like Chicago was rocking. But that, and again, my second key moment of the period was Sanjay Jiva versus Mason Hesham. It was awesome. Both of them. There was this might be another NSL record. I didn't get to really track it, but they called the power play against each other, and Sanjay scored 2 points against Hesham for his power play, which I wasn't that surprised by. But then Hesham, when he went for his first power play, and I was super excited for him because I feel like he is a power play. That's why he was built. I wanted him on the Lightning. That's exactly what I was trying to have two. Abdul Algar is obviously, I think, the king of the power play in the NSL. I will just say it. But Hesham, I thought was going to be a dog, and he got 1 point against Sanjay. So between the 4 power play minutes, there was only 3 points between those two, and I think Sanjay's defense there was major key to them winning the second period.
and I think that also just shows that just because you have a really attacking player on court does not necessarily mean they're going to be successful on a power play. Because on paper, based on Hesham's style, he should put up a lot of points on power play. But because he was playing against Sanjay Jiva, and depending on Sanjay's freshness, like if he was fresh in that moment, could not potentially be a very successful power play, which it wasn't. So again, really comes down to timing, really comes down to coaching calls. Obviously having the right player on court, but then playing it against the right player at the right time is so important.
Totally. And then the final, and this is, I didn't catch this on the tape, but it was I like this period, honestly. It made it easy to watch because all teams called double subs during it. So it was easy to track who was playing who. But it got down to Kareem El Torki versus, we talked about it earlier, Francesco Marcantonio. And I am sure Dylan Cunningham was like, oh my God, I'm screwed here. I'm in big trouble. I don't know what the relationship was between Francesco and Dylan before the match. Again, Dylan, tall lefty. Again, lefties I do think have a bit of a premium in this league. And it got to 18 all, and I'm not sure who called the timeout. But for the argument of this story, I'm going to say Dylan Cunningham called the timeout. And with 1 minute and 31 remaining, They had a little strategy, came back on the court, and I will say Mark Antonio at 18 all hit a huge nick, cross-court roller, so sick, and that's what this league is all about. It's all about seeing really aggressive shots, and after that, he put the pressure on again in the final point, my definition of the final point, and hit another straight, I guess, forehand drop for him to take the period 20-18. But it was, I think that timeout was absolutely critical for Nashville.
Definitely. I mean, great coaching call there to just kind of settle down, regroup for the last minute 30 on the clock. And that's what the timeout is there for, really. You know, it's your player is in a tense moment. You need to bring them off. You need to give them a little bit of advice, a little bit of, okay, what is the play here? What's the play call essentially? What are we doing in this last 1 minute and 30 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
And for Mark Antonio to take that advice, go straight back on court, win 2 outright rallies, give him the cushion to ride out that period. Just like great, competitive nature from him. And I think that's, even though you're right, like he had the negative differential on the day, that is, a shining moment for him and shows that he was a great pick for them and he performed well under pressure and when it counted.
And I think depending if he's available, and I don't know what flight costs are from Paraguay, but hopefully he sticks around because I think he's a good, ace in the hole, I guess, for Nashville. So anyway, period to Nashville, 1-1 going into the third period. Now, final score of the third period. Once again, Spencer, let's think about this. How many matches this year have come down to the final point? And we haven't even had an overtime yet, actually, which is crazy. But still, despite zero.
Well, we did in Nashville. We did.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we did. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so 1 overtime.
Nashville, Louisville. Yeah, went to shootout. But yeah, we've had quite a few. I mean, we've had quite a few. Well, obviously, the opening match of the season, Philadelphia Lightning, was a deciding point in the third period. Yeah. This match was a deciding point in the third period.
2.
There were a couple other just periods,
sure,
like themselves, not third periods, but just singular periods. I think there is at least one in the women's match in DC, and then I think one in the women's match in New York.
Yeah. I got to double check.
So we've had quite a few deciding points, and honestly, like it's great for the crowd. They love it. The deciding point, there's nothing better than it in squash. So yeah. I hope that we continue on this trend of just more matches like this.
It's just unbelievable how the format lends itself to just thrilling endings every single time. You have no idea. Again, going to talk about Newport, Greenwich, and the upset, but it's still just unbelievable. But before we get to that amazing point and the controversies that surrounded there, Spencer, what did I say earlier? I'm here to make your job more difficult. Now, I want to point out,
right.
I'm sorry, I know you're already going to be pissed off at me. We need to check the tape. This is for Nashville. We need to check the tape at around 17 minutes in the third period because it looked like it was 10-11, but then there was a phantom point given to Chicago at that time. And again, I am a believer.
Okay, I'll have to look into this.
I am a believer, though. If the score is what it is, it affects. There's a butterfly effect. So
I would have assumed that Dylan would have complained about this on the ground, or Nashville would have complained about this on the ground, if this was the case. So obviously, but that's the thing is we have to go with the call. That was like we wouldn't reverse this. It's just like any other sport. If the call is made by the ref, if the call is made by the official in the match, match is finished, we cannot then reverse the result of the match. So although stuff may happen, it has to be sorted out in the moment, in the heat of the battle. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm just assuming that Nashville would have complained about that if that was the case.
Again, and having been on the bench in moments, obviously in Atlanta, there's no way I'm even paying attention to the score that much, until the end. So it is what it is.
I mean, you lose track when you're in the heat of the battle as well,
But anyway, key moments also in this, and again, I have moments plural because this period was jam-packed with so much stuff. So first, Mason Hesham finally came about in this period on his power play. He got 6 points. I believe it was against Sanjay Jiva, and that was huge because I think they were down 17-19 it was actually against Mark Antonio. And it was huge. It was the Mason that I expected to see going for next, being super aggressive. I mean, he was picking up the ball, moving fast. He was so fired up. So that was first major point. Second key moment of this period, and again, NSL history to my knowledge, even more shocking because it was against Mustafa El Surdi, and we have sung his praises through the roof thus far. Kareem El-Torki let up 0 points on a power play against Mustafa El Surdi. And it was one of those, he was going for shots he was missing. He was picking up the ball. It was a little weird. I have no idea what El Surdi was thinking, but the fact that Kareem El-Torki held his own, and I got to see, I think it was the last power play, and Chicago was down, Chicago was down 25-29 at the time. Could have been a major opportunity to break it open, and credit to Kareem El-Torki for holding fort.
Yeah, I mean, El-Torki is a very good defensive player, and I'm not surprised that he was able to actually shut out El Surdi there. Very, very impressive, but his movement is very, very strong.
Yeah.
He's quick. He slides around the front corners. If El Surdi was just a little bit off, I could see it. But yeah, El-Torki definitely the defensive powerhouse on that Chicago team.
I was just shocked that, I think of him as a little bit of an aggressive player, but he was amazing, and he got, and again, when the final point, ended and he won, he turned to the bench. You don't get this in the PSA. He was pumping his chest. He was like, because he knew how big that was to hold that lead. But anyway.
Yeah, it's cool to see guys celebrating as well when they just like shut out a power play like that, because it is a big thing for the home crowd. It's like, it's like in hockey when the other team is on power play and you shut them out. You don't allow any shots on goal or whatever. Amazing defenses almost sometimes or in the NFL when it's a 4 and out on defense. The crowd loves that.
You know what they say, Spencer?
I think the defensive plays never get quite as much praise as the attacking plays, but they're still very impressive and something that the crowd can get super into.
Defense wins championships. That is how it's done. Now, again, for the Philadelphia Lightning, we're super aggressive and we're still undefeated, but that's fine. That's neither here nor there.
Good offense is also a good defense, though. So
yeah, shoot, I should have said that. But all right, let's get to the final point. And now my first question, and again, I assume you haven't seen much. Obviously, you saw the final point. You didn't see much.
Well, I watched this ending. Yeah, I watched the full ending here because it was pretty insane.
Now, again, my job is to make your life harder, Mr. Commissioner. Do you know who was reffing this match?
So I actually have no idea who was reffing this. Some guy called Mark. That's all I knew from our spreadsheet. But I was not in Chicago. I did not meet the ref. I do not know who he was. He was verified through our volunteer referee administrator, Brian.
Okay.
Brian McConnell. So Brian met with him ahead of the match and made sure that he was up to date on the rulings and everything. Yep. So, I trusted Brian's judgment. So yeah, but there were certainly some tense calls at the end of this match.
Mark's in trouble. Mark's in big trouble. Now, again, I will say this: I still like the NSL, and I don't want to bring more refereeing controversy into this sport. We do not need it, for the love of God. But it was, I think the NSL across all matches thus far, it's been pretty lenient in a mostly good way. And like, okay, there's general contact. Let's play a let. There's speed. There's so much going on. We really try and keep the whole gentlemanly factor in this sport. But man, there was one ball right in the middle, and Nashville, the Gawad even knew that it was a stroke, and he did not get it. And it kept at 31-all. It was very interesting. But if I'm Nashville, I'm putting that film and sending it to the commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, this is the heat of the battle again at the end of the match, and there's only a few seconds left on the clock. It's difficult, and those referees are put in a tough spot sometimes, and I did see that one. That was that was a favorable call for Chicago, I would probably say. In hindsight, I'm sure the ref would have looked back at that and said, maybe the wrong one there. But I will say, El Surdi did throw the fishing rod around there with his swing. He was looking for him a little bit, so up for interpretation. But yeah, there were about 4 or 5 lets in a row in the final rally. So both guys were edgy. There was a lot of contact. The referee was putting in a couple of tough spots there, and yeah, obviously, didn't want to didn't want to give a controversial call in that moment.
You don't want to end on a stroke, and we're gonna wrap this match up because we've been waiting for this climax right now. It almost delivered for a supreme moment where obviously Nashville won an unbelievable first match on the last point, and the final rally's going. The clock's hit zeros. It's 31 all. And, it's probably 10 shots have gone by, and Gawad's hit sort of a loose ball to El Surtees' forehand. And I was a little shocked he went for the cross-court nick, but he was feeling it. I mean, again, he earned the right to hit that shot, and he just clipped the tin. Gawad throws the racket to the bench, celebrates with the Chicago crowd. Crowd goes nuts. But Spencer, I am telling you, if that shot had hit and rolled, I think El Surtees would have broken the glass. Again, I keep saying we need glass insurance in this freaking league. It was gonna be the sickest shot, and to clinch the division, it would have been sick.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how much tension builds up in these matches as they get towards the end of the third period because of the clock, because of the scoreline, because of the stakes. And it was a no guts, no glory moment for Mustafa El Surtees. And you're right, he was feeling it. I think on the previous point, 31-30 down, he slotted a cross-court nick off the serve to tie it up at 31 all. So he was feeling it. He was like, you know what? If I get an open ball, I'm gonna go for it. So that's what he did, and he missed. And you know how it is, and that's sports. But yeah, you could tell how pumped up Chicago team was. Gawad, obviously overwhelmed by that, chucking his racket, and then the other boys going on court and storming the court and all huddling up together. So it was a really cool ending to the end of the losing streak for Chicago.
Yeah, and you're totally right. I forgot, I wrote that in my notes. It was like the squash match that made me fall in love with squash. I always say is Nick Matthew versus Amr Shabana, 2011 TOC, and Amr Shabana went for a cross-court nick, down 10-9 in the fifth, and hit it, and that's exactly what I wrote about El Surtees. So anyway, unbelievable match, but Chicago ends the streak with a 3-1 win over Nashville. The division is still not decided. I think they play the last match this weekend. Is that right? Of Chicago versus Louisville.
Chicago will be in Louisville this weekend. And we'll talk about that in our weekend preview at the end of the pod.
Perfect. All right. So now with that said, let's move on to I don't know. Again, both matches were so good. Another great match, Greenwich versus Newport. You were there, Spencer, boots on the ground. I kind of want to first hear, though, about, because again, it was all great social media from Greenwich and Newport, honestly. I want to hear more about, like, all the stuff before, honestly, because there was a little vineyard vines, there was a little golf. Well, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, this was like the ideal NSL weekend, as I would say it. Started on Thursday evening at the home of Syed Jaffrey, who is one of the local Newport squash players. He has an incredible home in Jamestown, Rhode Island, right on the water. He has a squash court in his house. It is just an incredible place, and such a treat for us to get to go and spend some time with the players there. He was actually hosting the Newport Dragons at his home for the whole weekend. So Timmy, Matthias, and Yaya were all staying there. So yeah, we had a nice little group of some of our VIP sponsors, players, and we got together on that Thursday evening for just a chill get together. Then Friday morning, the players and our VIPs got a chance to go out on the Newport Country Club golf course, which is one of the most exclusive golf courses in the country. They've played PGA events there before. It was a little bit nippy on Friday, and they had just aerated the greens. So it was early on in the season, but one of the faculty members, our board members at St. George, pulled some strings for us to get on there. So incredible experience for the players and our VIPs that day. And then that evening we had an awesome NSL dinner at a historic mansion in Newport. And it was such a cool location. We got to talk to everyone about the NSL. We did a little press conference with the players and got to hear from the players on their thoughts for the match the next day. So it was just a really cool buildup of the weekend, and just kind of like added to the storyline, and people started to learn more about the league who didn't know about the league as the weekend went on. And then it kind of just culminated with the match on Saturday night at 8 p.m. and everyone had kind of been following along the whole weekend and kind of learning more about the league. And then they got really excited. Like, oh, cool. Like now I kind of know the players. I got a chance to talk to Timmy, Matthias, maybe get some, build a little bit of a relationship with them and then go out and watch them on Saturday night. So I think that really helped us get great buy-in from the crowd. And sure enough, come Saturday evening, we had an absolutely sold out St. George's facility, at least 150, 200 people there, rowdy high schoolers. It was an absolute spectacle. So
now my only two questions from all of that. Who won golf?
So you'll have to talk to Timmy about this. We'll talk to Timmy about this in our interview with him later on.
All right, let's save it then. But we could save it.
I think that they did I didn't play.
Okay.
I was just kind of like walking. I walked a couple holes with them and just hung out. But BG, you wouldn't want to see that. I haven't hit enough golf balls in my life to warrant playing on Newport Country Club course. The course doesn't want to see that.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I saw Timmy swing. I'm not sure he deserved to be there either.
Yeah, he was just warming up. Timmy's a good golfer. He hits a clean ball.
He probably kicked one.
He's not as good as Gregoire. Gregoire is like a scratch golfer.
Yeah.
He's nasty. He says he plays every day. Or he hits balls every day.
That's
as part of his training.
So fitting for a Greenwich boy, which I will talk about later.
Yeah, he fits in with the team culture. But what was I going to say? I think they did a match play kind of thing. They did 2v2. And I think you'll have to talk to Timmy about his performance on the golf course. I have no clue what he shot that day.
Nice. Okay, well, we'll ask that. My other question was there any shit talking during the press conference? Anyone throwing?
No, we kept it cordial. It was more just hearing about the players on on their experience and what they're excited for for the weekend and for the match. We'll do some more trash talk centered press conferences in the future, but this was a pretty tame one.
Okay, well, it's a good segue because let me introduce the match. I'm gonna let you walk us through it because you were there, boots on the ground. But as I said, Greenwich's roster: Mustafa Assault, world number 1; Dimitri Steinman, world number 16; Gregor Marsh, world number 17. Best match, best roster in NSL history ever assembled. Everyone keeps talking about it. Versus Newport's team of Yaya El-Naswani, world number 26, Timmy Brownell, number 28, Matthias Knudsen, world number 43. Coaches, we have to mention because they're very important here. Greenwich has the Cameron Pilley, former world number 10 and head of the Appowamus Club, versus Newport's head coach, Pat Kosker, head of St. George's Squash. Now, Spencer, as I alluded to, and this is my form of shit talking, Gregor Marsh loves his golf. Dimitri Steinman loves his cars. Mustafa Asal, some would say he's world number 1. Maybe he's a pretty boy. Cam Pilley, some would say world number 10, head of Appowamus, just hits the hardest ball. On paper, this is classic Greenwich. They look so good on paper, unbeatable, leading the top of the world. But then when push comes to shove, they just don't show up. It just always seems to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you look at this match again on paper, like you said, total mismatch. Greenwich has the world number 1 player. Granted, he just came off a flight from Egypt, so maybe
semantics doesn't matter at all.
Some heavy legs, but but I didn't see that affecting him too much on court. To be honest, he was flying around out there.
Yeah.
And I will say it looked like Greenwich rested on their laurels a little bit on this one, and maybe thought that this was going to be easier than it was. And the Newport team, they're gritty. They showed up. They were on their home courts. They have Pat Kosker, who coached the Newport team to a playoff run last year and nearly beating your team to go to the final. So Newport had a lot going for them going into that match. I don't think Greenwich was ready for that.
Yeah. I will give credit where credit is due. I will give Coach Pat Kosker a lot of credit. If anything, I think he's really the one that is leading the charge. Matthias had a fine match. Timmy, Yaya, they all did okay. But I think if anyone deserves credit, it's Pat Kosker. People don't talk enough about coaches. Timmy and Matthias, we'll see if I see him in June. I'm still not worried about it. I think business will take care of itself, and the cream will rise to the top.
Well, BG, I'm going to have to mention this just because Newport was my prediction through to win the championship, and it's still alive. So
Mr.
I'm going to throw us back to our first podcast of the season where I predicted that, and I think you said Greenwich would roll this match. When we talked about it early on.
I just didn't know that we were going to be playing 18-inch tins. That's all.
Right. Yeah. So to preface this for the fans out there, this match was actually played on a 19-inch tin because St. George's does not have 17-inch tins. It's a high school.
Yeah.
Don't have adjustable tins, so that definitely lended itself to a different style of squash being played that day. It was a very, very low scoring match overall. It was hard to win points. It was, again, a defensive battle. It was a little bit of a battle of attrition. The players really had to think about how to expose each other on court. And to start off the match here, we had Brownell versus Marsh, and again, it was a textbook start, long rallies, ended in 5-all, and they were really just testing each other out at the start, but that tin was really definitely that was playing into it, because 7 minutes for 10 rallies is definitely low. And we would see that
in the
NSL.
Match, but that's typical PSA stuff.
For the NSL, exactly. Yeah, that was definitely more traditional for the traditional format of squash. But so Matthias Knudsen comes on and goes straight into his signature power play, and kind of picks off right where he left off last season, scoring 4 points on the power play. And again, I think that scoring 4 points on a power play on a high tin is that much more impressive than on the low tin. So you got to give Knudsen a lot of credit. And that wasn't even his best power play of the day. So putting Newport ahead there, and then Steinman comes on court with 9:25 remaining. Newport leading 10-5. Power play by Greenwich this time, and only 1 point for Steinman on this power play. So Matthias also showing his defensive abilities here. And Steinman, maybe not the best one to choose for a power play, in my opinion. He's not really your power play guy. I think that was not really the best play call. I would have definitely used Marsh or the world number 1 player, Mustafa Sal, who happens to be on their team, for the power play. So yeah, a little bit of a shocker for me there, and maybe one of the reasons why Greenwich fell short in that first period. And then El Nawasani, for me, El Nawasani was the player of the day, being able to hold the line with Asal all day long. Every time El Nawasani went on with Asal was rendered useless. He really was kind of like his kryptonite. And El Nawasani able to hold on to this lead and close out the period 16-11. So a really, really solid first period for Newport, really sending a message to the Greenwich team that they weren't messing around there.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. In the period, technically, I only played 6 points, but it was all against Asal, and it was 3-all to pretty much hold the period. And on paper, by the end of the match, Yaya actually finished with an even 0 plus minus. But if you look at who he played against and how he played, he definitely probably it's between him or Matthias. Honestly, Matthias was a plus 15, but Matthias is plus 15. Conveniently, he lines up with all his power play points, which, like you said, was a lot more difficult than a normal power play and a professional level 10. But between those two, it was very impressive.
For sure. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's a team effort, and each player brings their own unique skills to the table, and Yaya did his job that day. Yeah. He matched up with Asal. He took Asal out. He basically made him a non-factor, which is what he needed to do. And Knudsen was the guy who was told to go on court and score points.
Good coaching.
And that was the plan. And exactly, that was their plan. And credit to Pat and credit to Timmy as well, who I'm sure Timmy had a hand in a lot of these tactical decisions that were going on off court. Having been very experienced and a co-founder of the NSL as well. So, but between those two minds, I'm sure that there was a lot of tactical talk going on in between periods and in between shifts. So, moving on to the second period here.
Last thing, Spencer, I want to say before that is
go ahead.
Just for context on how low scoring this period was. So 16-11 to Newport. The lowest period total in NSL history before that, I went and double checked, was last year was 35 points. I think it was Chicago and Lake Erie, lowest points in a period. So this period was 27. And then the period you're about to talk about was 24 points.
Even less.
So 2 periods consecutively breaking the record for lowest in NSL history.
Even less, yeah. So this second period starts off with El Nawasani and Asal. Again, not a good matchup that day for Greenwich. Very, very minimal amount of damage done
You're just
by
long
Asal.
points. They just played, I think the first point was like 2 minutes in that period.
Yeah, it was just so hard for them to expose each other. Again, because of the high tin, and I think the high tin might have played into Newport's favor here, being the maybe slightly less attacking team, or maybe slightly less, lower ranked team on paper. But the power play called by Greenwich at 2-all, with 15:30 remaining, and Asal scoring 3 points there. So he's starting to get a little bit of momentum. Then we go into the kind of the second portion of this period with Knudsen and Steinman, 13:26 remaining, Greenwich up 5-2, and power play called by Newport to kind of try and get this back. Newport down 8-2 with 12:06 remaining, and Knudsen scores 4 points on this power play, but 1.5 minutes killed once the power play ended by Steinman, which was,
it was interesting. I didn't know if that was part of his, like, again, it happens later in the match, Newport, but literally, the power play ran out and Greenwich had the lead, and Dimitri just kept the point going on and on and on. I think Matthias did as well, just because he knew that, there wasn't going to be another power play point. So it was kind of weirdly against Newport because they were down, and Simon just kept it going forever, and it was kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that was this. Oh no, I'm thinking of the power play in the. I'm mistaking two of Knudsen's power plays.
Yeah.
Because Knudsen had I thought this was in the second period. That's why I was kind of confused. Right. But Knudsen Knudsen's best power play came in the third period. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this was another solid power play for Knudsen. And he brought them back to, somewhat even here at 9-8 down. Greenwich leading 9-8. Brownell comes on court versus Steinman with 5 minutes left. Brownell will close out the period. Steinman subbed off for Marsh for the final shift here at 9-all. So locked in, again, super low scoring with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Couple errors by Timmy at the end of the period. And then an interesting scenario happens here.
I love that.
And to be honest, I actually was not paying attention in this moment because I was trying to get the raffle, not the raffle, the giveaway, the Dunlop. I was trying to get the Dunlop giveaway ready for the end of the period, and then all of a sudden, you hear like commotion over by the front of the court, and they're like, "We need like the rules and regulations over here."
Oh my god!
So basically, Marsh stops playing
at 12:11.
At 12:11 up at the end of the second period, and to be honest, this was a little bit confusing by Simba, the MC, who basically, as the period ended, he said the period is now over.
Right.
At the end, rather than kind of, because usually what the MCs do is they'll count down they'll count down the period, and then they'll say this will be the last point of the period. But instead, he said the period has ended, and so Marsh kind of stopped and basically thought he had won the period. But you obviously, as long as you serve before clock expires, you have to play that last point, regardless of what the score is.
Correct.
And being down by only 1 point, Timmy knew if he had won that point, they would have gone to a deciding point. So technically, by the rules, Marsh would have lost that point, and they would have gone to a deciding point. But we played a let because Simba he signaled that it was the end of the period, and that put Marsh off a little bit. So we gave Greenwich the benefit of the doubt there. We played a let. So they replayed the last point of the period. Marsh and Greenwich end up winning that point, 13-11. Period to Greenwich, and we're going to 1-all into the third period.
And I think that was the right call. Again, it was a little awkward on the stream because it ended, and then the commercial started, and then it quickly flashed just as Gregor hit the winner. But from my seat where it was going, Timmy hit the shot and technically maybe should have won the point, but we're a spirit of intent and what's right, and I think that was the right outcome. So good job, Commissioner.
No, for sure. It definitely was. But I mean, everyone needs to be on the same page on these rules and stuff. And, we obviously need to make sure that our MCs and people are giving the right signals. So, obviously still working on that. But yeah, need to make sure that everyone's just on the same page and how these rules work, because they are still new and they are still, people are still learning them. So, so it's a work in progress. But yeah, Greenwich, I mean, great, pretty fantastic last rally from Marsh there, finishing it off with a forehand winner, and then taking them to the third period here, all to play for in the third, not going to a shootout in this match. Starting off with Brownell versus Asal in the third period, and Asal looks like he's really getting some rhythm here. Starts off very well. I think that this is a good matchup for Greenwich. I think that of all the matchups, Asal versus Timmy, it doesn't match up well for Timmy. Asal just so physical, so dominating around the middle. And Timmy was definitely struggling a little bit towards the beginning of this period.
But
and Asal,
you know why Asal was fired up and why I actually think he tried his hardest during this shift.
Why is that?
Because right as the beginning of the third period, so I'm not gonna lie, I felt like the St. George's crowd this year was a little more quiet than normal. Then all of a sudden, the third period, Timmy comes on, and I forget if he was encouraging, but it was loud cheers for Timmy, and it was sick. And then Asal came on, and they were booing him, and Asal turned to the crowd and was laughing. It was good, but I think deep down that got Asal a little fired up, and he was shooting. It was finally, I was like, all right, there's the Asal we need.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The crowd was a little bit more subdued this year than in past years. There weren't quite as many high schoolers that came out to this one because it was a later match. The reason they scheduled it late was on a Saturday because at these boarding schools they have like these weekends where no one's allowed to leave campus. And they had like away sports games on the Saturday that didn't get back until like 6 or 7 p.m. So they wanted to give the students a chance to get back from their sports games and then come out to them. So, but it was late. Some people were probably tired. So the students definitely weren't as rowdy as past. But yeah, going into that third period, they knew that there was a lot to play for, so they got up for it. And yeah, Asal knows he didn't want to let his team down. So he went on an absolute tear there in the start of the third and goes up 8-2. 3 points on the power play. And yeah, good call by Coach Cameron Pilley here to try to extend his lead a little bit. Then we get a Knudsen versus Asal matchup. Coach Pat Kosker pulls Timmy off court before the damage gets too great. Knudsen goes on and goes literally straight into a power play, straight on court. And this was Knudsen's shining moment of the day. Knudsen scoring 7 points on power play against the world number 1. I mean, that is pretty darn impressive, especially again, we keep hitting on this, but the high 10, 7 points on power play against the world number 1 is that's superhuman amount of points.
Might be, could be, still not the best power play in NSL history, but maybe there's an adjustment. I mean, I think the record in the men's side, it's 10 or 11 points. Maybe he would have gotten that. I don't know.
Yeah, we know your guy. We know your guy did that, BG. You can give your plug. You can give your plug. But yeah, I mean, that was incredible work by Matthias to then put Newport up 9-8. Asal subbed off, Marsh subbed on, and this was kind of a long slog, couple points here. Very, very long rallies into the mid stages of this match. We then get Yaya back on court for Newport Dragons again. Long points, Yaya and Marsh. Really just trading blows. No one really able to expose the other. And then Steinman comes on court against Yaya El Nawasani, 13-10. Newport has a slight lead building into the end of this period, just putting their noses ahead. And it's really at this point unclear who's going to come out with the win. 15 minutes left, halfway through the third period. I mean, BG, what were your thoughts at this moment in the match? I mean, it really could have gone either way.
Again, I was joking in the YouTube comments. I was like, while I did talk a lot of shit about Newport, like a Newport win was great because Greenwich on paper was super scary. So it just felt like the vibes that is, like you said, based with Matthias and that power play. Again, at the start of the third period, I was like, all right, classic Greenwich is going to win. I don't know why I ever doubted it. And then Matthias kept them in it. And then the points were going on forever. And my question to you, Spencer, it was fun. I was talking to a lot of people too about, and we'll talk about this. This was the lowest points in NSL history, but I was surprised there weren't more errors. You know what I'm saying? I felt like there would have been far more errors, but these guys, like, again, they just feel the chord. They know it. I mean, they were literally still hitting it inches above the tin, but they could obviously just get everything. That's why it's different. But I was very surprised to see almost the discipline and the long point. So I was kind of like, I have no idea where this is going, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there were very few errors, and I think that just speaks to the I think it just speaks to the kind of the gravity that the players feel of like the occasion. It's like I don't want to let my team down by like rattling off silly errors.
Right.
So like they know that this is a big match for both teams, and they wanna put their team on their back and they want to win. So there was a lot, it's just very tactical stuff going on. We're really just trying to expose the other players, and I think that especially these guys who are high level squash players, they know how hard it is to come back in this format if you get down in the scoreline, especially on a court that is tough to win points on. So if you just give away errors, it's just it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
I mean, it's this format isn't that difficult if you have a power play in your back pocket, right?
It's true. I mean, it's
you wouldn't forget to use a power play.
It's a good point. It's a good point, and going into the a good segue into the latter stage of this third period. Power plays would be a great way to score points, even on a high tin court. So we'll hit on that in a second. Because it's important. But so 15-13 Newport. We got Knudsen and Steinman on court, and Newport calls their second power play at 16-15 here. And this is a real dud of a power play, to be honest. Again, Dimitri, not the guy you want to call the power play on. He's their best defender, and he just totally shuts Knudsen down here, only allowing 1 point. So Newport up 17-15 now. Knudsen subbed off. Yaya and Asal subbed on with 7:58 remaining. And Newport out of substitutions. Greenwich still, I believe, has one substitution remaining. And also has a power play in the back pocket, as you just said, BG. So 17-15, kind of, this is a key moment in the match because, you got your number one player on court. You got one power play left for Greenwich. Again, Yaya, great matchup for Asal here, shutting him down all day. But this point that starts at 19-16, the serve goes off at 6 minutes and 36 seconds on the clock. This point goes on for 3 minutes, over 3 minutes. And basically, Greenwich loses their power play because, for those of you who don't know, you must trigger your power play with more than 4 minutes remaining in the period. So Greenwich, this point starts at 6 minutes, 36 seconds, ends at 3 minutes, 18 seconds. Greenwich loses their power play and is unable to use it for the rest of the period. And at this point, they're down by 3 points with 3 minutes and 18 seconds left and unable to use their power play with the best player in the world. That has got to be one of the biggest coaching mistakes so far in the NSL, BG.
It was mind-boggling, and again, this is where I say Pat Kosker is really the brains behind Newport. No credit to Matthias or Timmy or Yaya at all. But for fun, did you see, I don't know if, again, where you were sitting, did you see Pat Kosker at 4 minutes, like, give the fist pump and scream?
So I was stood right behind the Newport bench, and I was hearing their chatter, and they were like, are they gonna use it? Are they gonna use it? Like, are they gonna forget? Like, and they were counting down the seconds and looking over at the Greenwich bench. And to be honest, I don't know why Coach Cameron Pilley did not bang on the glass or like signal or do something, because all Asal had to do was just hit the ball in the tin, and they could call the power play. But they just refused to. He refused to end the rally. So
can you if I was as a coach, this is a good question.
Sure, I mean, I mean, if I was Cameron Pilley, I would have been shouting at my player, "End the rally! End the rally!" And like,
He
you got to do something in that moment because you're about to lose your power play in the most crucial moment of this match.
on the stream, he like kind of looked. He was just like not indifferent, but like I just don't. I think he was afraid to actually tell us all to do anything.
I mean, maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't know that he like was allowed to interject. Maybe he didn't know to do in that moment. But yeah, I mean, I don't. There's no rules against yelling on court or banging on the glass or whatever. It's
The closest.
This is the NFL, man.
Yeah, the closest equivalent that I've seen. I think this is the first time in NFL history that a power play has gone unused. The closest equivalent was last year. It was New York Knights versus Greenwich, and this is the third period. And this is back in the old days where it was a 1 minute power play and a 2 minute power play, and Sam Sherrill in the third period let it get down to I think 5.5 minutes in the third period before calling a power play. And I was curious if he was going to blow it and call for the 2 minute power play first, because then that would have brought it down to 3.5 minutes and he wouldn't have been able to get it done. But he was smart, did the 1 minute, and then immediately after the power play ended, quickly got the flag back up, and he didn't. He was saved the wrath of BG because I was definitely gonna dunk on him for it. And again, Cam Pilley, I have a ton of respect for. Obviously, I give people a hard time, but that was a big time blunder.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think he'll make that mistake again. It's one of those ones that hopefully you only make that once and then you learn from it and the rule going forward. But there's a reason why we have that rule. It's to prevent teams from running out the clock essentially at the end of the period if they have a lead, because again, no one really wants to see that. No one wants to see dead time. We want to see action. We want to see points scored on the scoreboard. So there's a reason that rule's in place, and I think it's a good rule.
Yeah.
It's an extra thing that the coaches have to be aware of. So Greenwich loses their power play, BG, and it's a tragedy for them. But Yaya just continues doing the work that he had been doing all evening and just keeping Asal at bay. And he maintains this he actually extends this and plays a couple fantastic rallies at the end, a couple winners. And Newport wins by 5 points. 23-18 and takes the match. Big celebration from the team. Big celebration from Yaya. He knows he's played well. And I think Newport will be taking a lot of confidence from this win going into the second half of their season and potentially the playoffs, putting themselves in a great position for the playoffs at the end of the year.
Yeah, we will see how it goes. They're actually the last match of the season. I think it's Newport versus Lake Erie, and from what I know, Lake Erie is a little some scheduling issues. So Newport might be lucky and just sneak into the playoffs because of that, but not too concerned about them.
We'll have to tell Pat. I'm sure he's listening on here, but definitely all luck.
Well, Spencer, let's bring in Timmy now. Let's actually do an interview and hear from Newport's newest player, but also NSL co-founder on the big weekend, the big upset, and what they have in store for the rest of the season.
We now welcome to the National Squash League podcast the current world number 29, a 3-time U.S. national champion and current U.S. number 1, 2-time team national champion from Harvard University, but most of all, he is part of the brand new Newport Dragons, fresh off arguably the biggest upset in NSL history over the Greenwich Panthers, co-founder of the NSL. He is Timmy Brownell. Timmy, how are you today?
BG, what's up? That was a good intro. Honestly, every week I keep hearing the ranking number go up and up and up. So it was 25, 26, 27, 20, 29. I don't know where we're going to be in like 2 weeks, so we'll find out. But anyway, good to be here.
I think, while that number is going the wrong direction, obviously big win this weekend, so much so that, for the entire time before this podcast started, you were wearing those sunglasses, acting sort of like a little too good. You're a little too good for the world. You must be flying high after the weekend.
We are absolutely flying high. Honestly, I've gotten a bunch of messages about it. Everybody's bantering because, as you said, my rank is getting higher and higher. All 3 players in their team are ranked higher than us, but we sent them packing. And I don't know if you were tuned into the stream, but we actually had the Newport kids that were singing "Fire Up the Buses." So it was actually pretty fun. What a good win for us. So honestly, happy to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, just talking about the Newport environment and just like the overall weekend experience. This was I was there. It was a pretty ideal weekend from all standpoints. Just like the overall prep, the couple days that led up to it. what were your thoughts on just like the overall weekend experience, like leading up to the match? Like, how are you feeling physically? How are you feeling mentally going into the match? And also just like, some other elements of the weekend. How was the entire weekend?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two edges of the sword here where it was an amazing weekend. Like there was so much going on. So it felt like so much of the Newport community and the Boston community was involved. So like there was so much good energy, crazy events. Like we got to play at Newport Country Club and golf. Like that's something you'll never be able to do in your lifetime. It was so special. But then on the other hand, like all of that kind of takes away from your focus of actually playing a match. So all the players were kind of like on the fence there where they're having such a good time. But at the same time, you're kind of frying yourself energy wise. So we were kind of trying to toe the line as best we could. But like from start to finish, we were busy all day. And it was just what a weekend from start to finish.
Yeah. So we're in a bit of a time machine a little bit. Spencer and I recorded the first part of this podcast yesterday, and he was telling me about the Newport Country Club, and obviously all anyone talks about, whether it's the PSA or the NSL, everyone says Gregor Marsh this, Gregor Marsh that. Is he actually that good at golf?
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm sorry, Gregor, but I'm gonna go ahead and say no. I'm gonna go ahead and say no. So yeah, a lot of people talk a lot of smack. Gregor's a great player, but the word scratch golfer is thrown around pretty lightly nowadays, I would say. So I'm gonna have to see some more evidence there. So I've actually asked him. I'm saying hopefully sometime we get to play together. I didn't get to play in his group, so Matthias had some more evidence of how good he was. But just seeing him hit around, I was impressed. But I think scratch golfer might be a bit strong for old Gregoire.
So Timmy, what were the results in your foursome for the Newport Country Club golf experience on Friday morning?
So we had the young guns versus the old bucks. Myself and this guy Stuart, he's headed to Denison to play for the Huge Red next year. We absolutely handed it to the old men, David and Dom. So we beat him on hole, I think 16 or 17. But honestly, it was an amazing round. Like the course was playing great. It was super open. Really hard to lose a golf ball there. So I didn't lose a golf ball, which is crazy for me. And Stuart was super long off the tee. We called him Stu, and he was by me by like 30 yards, which is insane. So I really enjoyed playing with them. We did best ball, and David and Dom were awesome to play with, and it was gorgeous out there. It was super windy though, so when the wind was in your face, the holes were playing super long. I don't know if Lovejoy would have made it out there, BG, honestly.
No, my ball would have gone straight up and then probably.
Yeah, he hits a bit of a high flyer, so I think he's not going to make it there.
Straight back on the tee.
Well, hey, if you hit it left to right and the wind's blowing right to left, could have been a win-win.
It was more of wind in face, and Lovejoy is already kind of length challenged, so I think he might have.
You got to adapt and account for the elements. I'm pretty resourceful. I think I would have figured it out.
Very resourceful, very resourceful.
Timmy, the people that you were playing with, are they Newport Dragons fans by chance?
Well, I think everybody, most of the people there were, yeah. But hang
on. So do you think maybe they let you win just so you'd have a little more confidence going against?
I think not actually, because Stu is Dave's son, and I think he wanted to stick it to him. So I think the old guys were trying their darndest, and we just had a little too much in the tank on the day.
Anyway. So transitioning over from the golf experience to the match, and you already talked about how Newport always brings a great environment. I played on the Newport team last couple of years. I experienced the high schoolers heckling, and it's a little bit of a different experience. So how was that? How was the crowd? How at the start of the match? Were you excited? How are you feeling? Just kind of going into that match, playing against the Greenwich Panthers, the better team on paper. But obviously Newport bringing the home crowd, Newport bringing, a strong squad, what I would say is, the perfectly well-rounded squad going into that match.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited. I'd only watched the matches in the years before on stream, but you could even tell through the camera how packed it was and how rowdy it was. And I love seeing the photos of the kids in the Dragon shirts going nuts. And you could tell they were heckling and the whole thing. Like, I was really looking forward to it. So that anticipation was kind of building through the weekend, and we knew that there was like over 100 kids were going to show up and have shirts for them ready. And that this is one of my opinions. I think that the intros in the NSL are among the best in sports, where the energy gets so good and people are buzzing, especially when the home tee comes out. So like when I got introduced, I kind of just blacked out and I jumped in front of the back wall and I was like, "Let's go!" And the crowd just went nuts. And I was like, you get that electricity where you get the goosebumps and the players aren't court. And that was everything I hoped it would be. So it really had that buzz right when the warm-up started. And actually, an interesting tidbit here is when Marsh and I were warming the ball up, I've seen some inconsistencies here across different NSL matches where some teams will take like 5 minutes for the first two players to warm up. And I'm like, come on, 1 minute and then we're in, because the other players don't even get to warm up on court. So let's just get the ball warm and go. And Greg was like, oh no. Like, he's like, I guess that makes sense. Like, as I was telling him on court, I'm like, dude, let's switch. We got to go. So we started right away. And then we got in. The energy was like through the roof for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fans really appreciate that when the players because the 5 minute warm up, it's a little bit long. And
It's so excessive.
Kind of it kind of puts out the energy from the intros. Like you said, the energy is so high after the introductions, and then to then pause for 5 minutes to wait to for the ball to warm up. It's it's a little bit anticlimactic. So I think that does add a really good, just better transition to the start of the match.
Absolutely.
So, Timmy, I asked Spencer this yesterday, and my college squash career was okay, but it was nothing compared to what you guys had. Obviously, the buzz in the NSL world right now after this, everyone's trying to make excuses, is that you guys were playing on a 19-inch tin instead of the 17-inch tin, and that is the data that everyone keeps pointing to is that you guys didn't have just one but two periods during your match that broke the record for fewest points in a period in NSL history. Do you think that the other thing I also noted was you guys didn't make that many errors as well. So how do you guys talk about that? Do you think about that as you're playing, or is the tin's the tin and the court's a court and everyone plays on the same thing?
No, there's a lot to unpack here. So obviously we knew the tin was high going into the match, and that was something that we thought about the week. Like Matthias and I we were practicing at Belmont Hill courts the week before, which is high tin. And to be honest, when Greenwich is a bit upset about the high tin, it nerfs our team 100x more than their team, right? So Matthias and I are more shot making players. The high tin does not help us at all. And Greenwich has probably the three fastest players in the top 20. They have Marsh, Steinman, and Asal. How are we supposed to win points? So if anything, we should have been at a huge disadvantage there, because Matthias his upside is on the power play and winning points quickly. And I'm not exactly the guy that's going to outrun Dimitri Steinman. So all in all, it is kind of funny that after the match, we hear a lot of complaints. I totally respect that. The match probably should have been played on the low 10. But in terms of relative impact on the teams, our team is nerfed way more than their team with a high 10. So that's definitely something to point out there. And also both teams were aware of it beforehand. So it's not like you're playing on the court and you're like, wait a minute, it's high 10. It's going into the match, it's high 10.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point. And we could tell, I mean, obviously change the dynamics of the squash. And, the first bit of that period, you and Marsh starting out, long testing rallies. You guys ended at 5-all after 7 or 8 minutes of play, which is, a low scoreline for the NSL. And we would see that throughout the match. What was the general strategy going into that match? What were you guys looking at? What was Coach Pat saying to you guys? In terms of matchups, what were you guys looking for? Unpack the strategical analysis a little bit for the fans out there.
Hang on. First, let me get my note and pencil for the Philadelphia Lightning just in case.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's not going to help you guys. We're too balanced. But first, I just want to give a shout out to the old Dragons players and then the Grizzlies, who I think you guys always used to play there. Is that because it was a high 10 as well, and no one said a peep in the previous years because you guys were just gunslinging and hitting nicks and winners the whole match. So you put up these mega scores even on the high 10. So you gotta respect it. I respect it. Whereas some people did make good points that this is probably a way too high level for the high 10. So with the top boys, you can't put the ball down on them. And that's why the score was so low.
For sure, but I mean, I think again, as a player, you just have to adapt to the circumstances.
Try to win. That's what we did. We cracked on. And if you notice, if anyone goes back and watches the tape, Matty went off rip and scored 5 points against Marsh on power play. So we definitely had the strategy, which is we weren't sure. You're obviously not sure who's going to start, right? So when we saw that Marsh started, he was the guy that we're going to power play of the three, just because Steinman's a lightning rod on court and Asal is Asal. So we had to pick Marsh, and I got paired up with him. So the goal was for me to just take a little bit of energy out of him and get Matty on and immediately power play him before they can get Marsh off. So we clearly had a plan, at least a rough outline of a plan, where it seemed like Greenwich didn't really have a plan. They were just kind of relying on the talent, which is fine. But once the plan started working in our favor, it was a huge relief to kind of get the first period under your belt, because I think we were all a little bit worried that they would just be unstoppable because of the talent of the roster. So things really went to plan in the first period when you got Matty to catch fire on a power play, because that's not guaranteed. Probably 2 out of 4 or 2. I'd say 1 out of 4 he's gonna have a dud, and 3 out of 4 are pretty solid. And he had a great one, which really helped. So once we had the lead, then our strategy was to let Yahya, the engine, he doesn't want to be called the engine, but we're going to call him that, the engine, just to close it out and sit on the lead. He's so hard to put it down. and it worked to perfection. So once we got that first period, it really kind of, I think, loosened up the nerves and kind of like let us be like, hey, we're in this match.
So there's so much I want to talk more about this match, and I want to get more to Matthias and his power play actually in the third period. Spencer, maybe I'll let you take that because we talked about that in the recap. But I want to go to the end of the second period right now. So you guys win the first period, that's great. End of the second period, you and Gregor are on the court, and I was watching the stream. Me as an NSL fan, I was almost a little upset because this is classic Timmy. You did this also in the NSL Finals in 2024. You somehow always make the impossible possible, and you're down 12-10 with 10 seconds left. You somehow hit a reverse corner off on the stream. You couldn't really see it. I was like, oh my god, Timmy's gonna get this off, and then I was like, and Gregor stopped playing. I was getting so frustrated. Can you walk me through your perspective on what happened? And then, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the point because the ad came on. Walk me through the final point too. At 12.
Yeah, I watched this back on stream. It's really a shame, honestly. Like a total brain fart from Marsh, and really that's kind of a symbol of how unprepared the Greenwich Panthers were for the match. Is that when a serve goes off in the NSL, you play that point out. It's more like the NFL here when the snap goes off and there's zeros on the clock, the play is allowed to run out. So, if there's 1 point left in the period and the player serves with 1 second left, you got to play that point out. And I think Marsh just totally blanked it because I think it was either Mike Riley or maybe Simba on the mic said like he was counting down the time. And because I could hear him, I knew the time. I'm bouncing the ball, waiting for the time to expire because I want this to be the last point where if I win, we're going to go to sudden death. And so I waited, that should maybe be a clue to Marsh that like this point's going to happen. I would have served earlier. But I think when they got to 0, Marsh is like, okay, cool, the period's over. And so I just hit a drive and he's like, oh, nice, the period's over. And he just like walked off the court. And I'm like, where are you going, bro? Come on. Like, this is going to be like, it would have been a great point. If I win it, we go to sudden death. And then obviously there was pandemonium because like Greenwich is like, oh, the period's over. Not knowing that this has happened probably 10 plus times in NSL history where the last point's happening past the zeros. And LCEO Lovejoy comes in and was very friendly and offered up a generous let to the Greenwich Panthers. And then Marsh just came out and hit a perfect winning shot to win the period, which is, fair enough. But I would have loved to say we played a sudden death rally, whereas there kind of changes the dynamic. I'm serving to a different side, and it's not a sudden death rally. The crowd didn't get to have that hype up moment. So you could say that the period may have gone differently anyway. Maybe we win 4-0. But as played, Marsh did slot a perfect winner. But he was given a little gift by Spencer.
I mean, so BJ and I talked about this on our recap earlier, but I didn't see the rally because I was trying to get the Dunlop giveaway, and I was selecting little kids.
Lovejoy got too many jobs.
I was selecting little kids from the crowd to like come on for the giveaway, and then all of a sudden I hear the pandemonium going on the court. I'm like, all right, I gotta go sort this out. So I walk over, and then so I think that the kicker that made me like choose to play a let there was that Simba, instead of saying like usually what the MC does at the end of the period is they count it down and they say this is going to be the last point of the period, whereas Simba said the period is now over or the period is over.
Yeah, he said this is the end of the second period or something like that.
This is the end of the period, which is a little bit of a miscue, and I guess like could have been like kind of like misconstrued by Marsh. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt there. Again, technically based on the rules, you're correct. The Greenwich Panthers should have lost that point. But it was clear that like there was a bit of a miscue by the MCs.
Simba acting as a double agent there.
Yeah, in future, MCs need to not say that the period is over. They need to say that it will be the last point of the period. So
we got to get Bill Buckingham out there to give Simba the crash course.
Bill's down in Siesta Key right now on the beach, so we're not going to bother him this week.
Yeah, we'll leave him be. We'll leave him be.
He was actually it was funny. I received a photo from my mom this morning. My mom is down in Siesta Key in the same town as Bill. Saw him walking on the street with his Newport Dragons jersey on. Unreal. Small world.
Oh.
I'll show you the photo, actually. Yeah, look at this.
Are you kidding me?
My mom sent me this photo this morning.
Oh my god.
What a legend.
Bill and his wife.
You think he'd be walking around tarps off with that body he's got, Spencer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you should just get the sleeveless one next time. Cut the sleeves off.
That honestly would go crazy. If we had NSL tank tops, I think that would sell out.
We'll get M4 on it. Get Dirk on it. Easy.
Get Dirk on that. Yep.
But anyway, small world. Wild Bill will be coming back into the fold for the
Shout
Philly
out to
match.
Wild Bill. Wait, hold on. Can we chirp Wild Bill here real quick because I think he's been two timing some teams because I've seen him. He's been repping some Lightning merch. He's
accepting free merchandise from any team that will send it to him.
He's a self-proclaimed diehard Grizzlies fan since inception, and then since they became a poverty franchise, he's since jumped ship.
Well, I don't even know where his alliances are. I thought it was Philadelphia Lightning through and through, but that photo has me thinking, he's a Fairweather fan.
I think he's a bandwagoner. So now that Chicago's got their first win, he's going back to the Grizzlies.
Squash Radio loves all free gear.
I think Bill in his next podcast has to address this. Is he a bandwagoning fan?
All right, well, we'll call him out. And Bill, you've been called out on the National Squash League podcast. You have to choose your allegiance from now on.
This is terrible.
One team. I don't think you can do it.
We'll clip this.
It's too risky to choose the Grizzlies because they haven't proven that they're not poverty yet.
Well, now, honestly, Timmy, fun fact, now that Chicago has won on the men's side, who is the only team without a win in NSL history?
Ooh, that's interesting.
On the men's side.
Is it? Oh, I was thinking it'd be a women's team like Seattle because they'd lost, but
no. I feel like every team has
women's? Wait. Is it? No, we lost to Louisville. So
come on, guys. Come on, my NSL co-founders. You got to know this. This is
very
it the
important. Greenwich Panthers? No.
It is the Greenwich Panthers.
Oh,
Greenwich Panthers.
Greenwich Panthers.
They bottled it.
Yeah.
They bottled
it
at home
last season. They were 0-2. You're right. They lost. I thought they beat New York last season, but you're right. They lost in New York.
They bottled it, and they have the greatest roster in NSL history.
This goes to show rankings don't matter.
They don't matter. You got to use the playbook. That's what I love that photo that someone clipped with me and Pat doing the timeout at the same time.
BG, that was a great photo that you posted today.
BG, now that we've got Spencer here, I think we need to address this because I think this should be allowed.
Okay.
We knew, this is again how deep the strategy went. We knew that Matthias was going to get power played after he had called a power play because he juices out when he's on the power play, right? And he had told us, get me off before they can get me.
In the first period you're talking about.
And so when they tried to power play, we figured that he was going to get stuck out there. And so we were like, we're going to try to use a timeout here. So when they call it, he can get 60 seconds at least, and then he's got to kill 2 minutes. So they called a power play, and we went timeout. And Lovejoy was treating this is now the precedent that's been set, and I think it should be changed. He's treating a timeout as the same action as like a substitution or power play, where whichever flag is called first, that one gets to stand, and the other one doesn't get to trigger. Whereas I feel like the timeout here, I think the rule should be a timeout cannot go in the middle of a power play, but the power play technically the power play had not started. Like the next point had not gone off. So like I kind of like giving him a 60-second break and then 2 minutes of death.
I'm going to write that down.
I'm going to say if the power play flag goes up before a timeout is called, power play wins.
But the power play is going to go off anyway. But it's like you can't just have a timeout.
No, absolutely not. Because
so you're going to treat it like a sub or a power play.
Yeah. So I mean, how we do the rule right now is like the next action, since the power play is currently going, right? So you can call whatever that next action is going to be after the power play. It has to be done in the last rally of the power play. So if that last rally, the next power play flag goes, or say you're on power play, Newport's on power play, and Greenwich wants to call a power play right after, they'd have to indicate that in during the last rally of the power play. If you want to call a timeout, you'd have to indicate that during the last rally of the power play. And, so I don't know. I'm somewhat in BG's camp here. I think it should be whoever does it first gets the action. I don't know if the timeout should necessarily trump the power play or the substitution for that matter.
To be fair, the power play is meant to screw people that are tired. So in that sense, it makes it more exciting when the player's so tired and they have to defend.
Right, but also think about a scenario where it's getting towards the end of the power play and both teams kind of know what's coming. Newport is wanting to call a timeout, Greenwich is wanting to call the power play, and it's just they're just waiting for that rally to end so that they can kind of they can jump on that next. And then obviously that requires a lot of us to be observant and to make the right call there. So,
well, speaking from the MCC, because that's what I do a lot of, and it's very complicated. I actually, during a power play, there's been multiple times where people a minute after will throw up the substitution flag just to let me know that once the power play is over, that substitution. And I actually like that. It makes my job a little easier. And these are little details, obviously, for the league. But that's why, to your point, to me, and I will just give an example. Last year, Spencer, you were there. You were both there. The Bernard Jaum versus Abu Elgar power play controversy in the final, and who got what up, and timeouts weren't even a thing then. If timeouts supersede everything, Bernard Jaum gets his break, and then Abu Elgar doesn't get the NSL record 10-point power play. No big deal.
Right.
Just saying.
Right.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I like this conversation because I had to come in confident so that if your case was strong enough, it would win. And clearly, I think we've arrived at timeout is not going to be able to cheat the power play.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'm okay with this.
all coaching calls are created equal, and it creates that kind of like skill from the coach, like so you have to be observant, you have to call things at the right time rather than you can just kind of bail out your player at any time.
Giving Pat Kosker some credit here, even though we didn't get the timeout off, the controversy that it caused gave Matty at least 60 seconds.
That's very
So
true.
we ended up getting enough that he could like stuff the power play.
And he only let up 1 point on that power play in the first period.
Yeah,
and
he came off and he was like that mini rest for the break there helped him a
Right.
ton because he would have been cooked.
Yeah.
So B, should we move over to the third period here?
Third period, and I'm going to ask the first important question. Timmy, I think up to that point, Asal clearly had not been playing up to par, but then you dared the audience to cheer you on as you walked on court, and then booed Asal as he walked on court. And I think that awakened the beast. What were you thinking?
Well, honestly, like there was a lot going on there, but when Asal came on court, truthfully, what I told him I was like, let's have some fun, let's hit some nicks. Like I wanted to see him bring out more of himself because it seemed like he was playing kind of like ABC in the match. Like he was trying hard, but he wasn't playing with like a flair that we want at the NSL. And I think that he had it in him on the day, and he totally brought it out in that shift, which was amazing. It was terrible for me, but it was amazing where he brought out some awesome shots. And like if you watch the replay, you can see even the referees going like, oh, when he hits like an insane shot and sent me into like Western Nepal. But I really loved it. That's all I was
got
saying.
A really good slow-mo of one ridiculous shot that he hit. You hit like a lob out of the front right, and it bounced off of the side wall. And he was coming around his backhand and literally like flicked it, and she got it in slow-mo on the camera, and like literally flicked it from behind his body into the straight nick, and it was a joke shot. I don't know if you remember that one, but
All right, so for on the Insta, then we need that in slow-mo with just tunes and like basically no caption. I need that 1 million views.
We'll throw
I
it
need
out.
it.
1 million.
G Ramos, you're on it. All right, but yeah, so I really wanted to like bring some of that out of him, and it did come out, which is great. But then obviously they could see that he was starting to become himself, and they were like, let's power play. And I did my best to try to stuff it, but like I think I was down like 8-2 or something after a power play, which is not ideal. Like a power play should be around 4 points. So ideally we would have been down 4. We were down 6. And we just got me off. We just said, hey, let's switch it up. And actually what helped here, and Matthew was actually quite sharp, was that he was listening to Yahya, and Yahya was saying, hey, it costs us all energy to play that fun. So why don't we put Matthew on quick and go for a power play on the best player in the world, which seems insane. But Yahya was very sharp and actually was like, I think he's going to have a little dip, and you can't really. This is where Greenwich needs a timeout. Why? Again, a coaching error. If they see that he's dipping, just give him a little timeout. If they're bringing Matthew on, we're only bringing Matthew on for one reason, and that's to go ham. So why wouldn't they just burn a timeout, give us all 60 seconds? Whereas Matty just caught him off guard, and Asal hit like 2 or 3 auto tins, and Matty scored like we were down 8-2, we were up 9-8. We were up 9-8.
Yeah.
And it was just clearly just because Asal had a tiny dip and hit like a couple out of court. Matty caught him. Coaching. That's all coaching. So it was actually really cool to see. I thought, despite riling the beast, it made it for that was probably one of the most interesting parts of the match, I feel.
Yeah, no, it was a really perceptive call by Yaya there, but Matthias to be able to score 7 points on the world number 1 on a 19-inch tin is unheard of. That is like, I mean, and that really saved you guys the match there, getting up by 1 point, and then going into the mid stage of that third period with a fighting chance, and then you guys were able to hold the line a little bit there, and then so going into the last portion of the third period, Newport has like a 3-point cushion or so, and then it was that matchup between Yaya and Asal kind of all day. Yaya was kind of like his kryptonite. Was that a matchup that you guys were targeting, the Yaya and Asal matchup?
No, we were mostly just using Yahya for what he could do on that high 10. It was like whoever it was going to be, because I honestly was thinking that they were going to use Steinman as like the ace player. And if it was going to be him at the end, it was still going to be Yahya. Because on the high 10, in the way that Yahya moves, the way he plays, it was going to be him to finish. And in this format, on the high 10 there especially, you don't want to be trailing at the end of the period. And so it allowed, with the balance of our team, it allows us to put in the kind of like hold the line mode. He's the perfect player for it. But even all that said, we still would have been underdogs. I think when they subbed on, it was Yahya and Asal, both fresh, with about 7 minutes, and we were only up 2. And again, remember, on average, I would love to pump the stats on this, but I would say an average power play is 4 points.
3 to 4. Yep.
3 to 4. And so I think net, we're down there. We're down essentially 1 point EV, and they're world number 1 on court. So for Yahya to hold the line there and for them to fumble the coaching is insane. So like for the fans that don't know, is that they couldn't get their power play off in time. And it totally changed the match.
And I just want to, and I sort of asked Spencer about this, but I would love to hear from your perspective. So the stats, we got it. So points started between Asal and at 6 minutes and 36 seconds. The point lasted 3 minutes and 18 seconds. And there's obviously the reaction of Coach Kosker, getting, cheering when it gets below that 4 minute mark that you're talking about. But is that coaching? Is that a little bit of luck? Like in my mind, I'm watching, like it's a little bit of luck that it just happened to work out. Like I'd like to think that Greenwich would have called the power play had the point ended sooner, but Yaya just kept it going, and so did Asal.
I mean, of course there's luck involved, but like to say Greenwich would have called the power play if it ended sooner, of course they would have. So like the coaching error is at 4 minutes 15 seconds, realizing that they're still hitting straight drives and being like, that's when you need to do the Celia Pashley and just scream over the back wall and say, hit the tin.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's a coaching error.
Steve Ketchum, the owner of the team, came to me after the match and he's like, "What would you have done in that scenario?" And I would have told my player, I would have
banged the glass,
bang on the glass, or I would start yelling at my player saying, "Hit the tin!" Like literally hit. The tin. And look,
this is the NSL. You don't have to be silent. So like, yeah,
like they could have definitely avoided that scenario. So I don't know why they didn't do anything to try and just get Asal to miss. Like he just would not miss, which is fair enough. But it just seemed like he definitely was not keyed in with the rule or the timer at all much. He wasn't really playing the timer much that day. He was just kind of playing, as you said earlier. So.
But this is where we actually talked about this, where we were saying if like let's say Asal had played Yahya in a PSA match on that court on that day, he would have done something similar to what he was doing, which is like he simply would have had to kill like 25 minutes of that to try to take a little bit out of Yahya's legs, and then he could start to move the ball more. So like it would have been like a 3-love in like 65 minutes kind of thing, And unfortunately, you cannot play the same way as PSA on that court. Like you just got to burn the tank a little bit harder. And also like with the clock, he obviously had to burn the tank more. But I think he was playing like in a way that was clearly winning, but not in the format. Like he just wasn't going to be winning in enough time. So like it wasn't like he made a huge error. It's just the error was, it's coaching. Honestly, it's so that's why again we made the league this way. So the playbook's that big. If you're not following your own playbook, you're gonna get rolled.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty cool to watch just the tactical stuff going on, the underdog win overall, super entertaining squash. The fans loved it. Big celebration at the end from the boys and the fans and the Newport crowd cheering on the home team. So, obviously.
Can we say a quick prayer for the Beacons next week, honestly? Because I think we may have angered the beast here. So I think group prayer for the Beacons.
Pray for the Beacons.
Pray for the Beacons. We might see a scoreline we've never seen before.
Silly things to them.
Spencer and I in our preview, we said both 4-0 Greenwich over Lake Erie. And again, unfortunately, Lake Erie's not going to have Victor Crouan, not going to have Bernard Jaum. I think it's going to be bad.
So can we talk playoffs here? So if Greenwich wins 4-0,
they still have a chance if they win 4-0.
We may be in some trouble because like we're going to have to go away at Lake Erie and win 2 periods.
Whoa. Time out. Timmy, time out. I know this game, okay? I'm a media aficionado. You're trying to be humble right now, Timmy, and I don't like it, okay? You're fresh off the greatest upset in NSL history, and you're going to tell me, we're going to have a tough battle with the Lake Erie Beacons. No, come on.
We're going to roll them. We're going to go out there and roll them. Roll drags. Roll
drags. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, based on the stats, Greenwich does still have a chance to qualify if they win 4-0. And yes, you guys would have to win 2 periods at the minimum in order to win the division.
But even if they win 3-1, our differential wasn't that high. We probably won.
So it was plus 10,
8 points.
So plus 10, okay. So like it's not that high. So let's say they win 3-1, but they really like blow them out in the third period. Like we're gonna have to go hard in Lake Erie.
Yeah, definitely. Every point matters. Every period matters. So, I mean, that's the beauty of the league at this point.
But it's just crazy for playoff implications already in match 1. It's like it's just from the get-go. Every match is so big.
Yeah. So final question before I want to hear more about what you got until that match in May. But Timmy, give us your predicted playoffs on the men's side. Give us who are the 4 teams that are going to be in. You don't have to tell us who's going to win or whatever, but who are going to be the 4 teams that are going to be in the playoffs?
Ooh, that's tough because you got wild cards. Like it's going to be chaos. So like, who deserves to be in? Like, I mean, you can make a case that like, oh, Atlanta deserved to be in with the way they've played. But then like,
you gotta win. You gotta win in this league.
They did win.
They won one. Yeah, gotta have a good. Gotta have a positive point differential at least.
Yeah, positive point differential for them to go to New York and win away, and against a loaded roster. Like it was Sharbagi Yao as well, right? Who was the third for New York? I'm trying to think for the Knights.
Sharbagi, Yao, and Rory.
Rory. So it's like 3 solid players with 2 elite players, and they got handled by Sharaf, Miguel, and Ivan Perez. So like, I really think Atlanta deserves it, but I don't know if they're going to qualify.
It's going to be hard for Atlanta to qualify. It's going to be very hard, unless they somehow snag the wild card spot. But I mean, but they did play amazingly in that match.
So Tim, come on, I need your 4 teams. Let's go.
You need
I'm not letting you avoid this.
All right. I mean, I would pick. I think I'm going to pick the Dragons. You have to pick the Dragons for sure.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, but I don't know if there's a path for Greenwich. I'm going to pick the Dragons in there. I'm going to pick. I think the Lightning qualify because I think they're playing at home. The crowd's going to be huge, and they're going to go so that they could be 2-0, and they just auto are in. Who are the 3 teams in the 3rd division?
You've got Chicago, you've got Nashville, and you've got Louisville. That's an interesting division. Actually, at this point,
Nashville is done. Yeah, Nashville's done
statistically.
That's crazy because they played so well as well.
Yeah, they're eliminated.
They lost by 1 point, and they won by 1 point and lost by 1 point.
And then lost by 1 point.
Winning by shootout really does not do that much for you because it does get you a win, but
unless you win the division, unless you go 2-0.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're 1-1 with a shootout, you're kind of cooked.
Yeah,
because you only got 2 periods. If you don't 4-0 in the next match,
unless
Nashville's
I mean, unless you go 2 shootouts, you get 4 period points. That's not a bad.
Also, Louisville has not shown me anything in the past years. So that's kind of hard to say.
Coach Fernando Valdezon bring the boys to victory this weekend.
I think that they could, but also the Grizzlies on paper. But again, I've fallen victim to rooting for the Grizzlies in the past with their roster, and they've just let me down time and time again.
Projected roster for the Grizzlies this weekend is Kareem Abdel-Gawad, Sam Todd, and Herbert.
That's just such a good team. I can't in good faith pick the Colts over that. So I'm going to say the Grizzlies make it in.
So you have Grizzlies,
Lightning, Dragons, Grizzlies, and a wild card team, which probably should be the Panthers, but they're going to find a way to fumble. I mean,
it could be Atlanta. It could be.
It could be Atlanta.
New York. New York could sneak in. I'm
going to say Atlanta deserves it as played because I think they likely should have won the first match as well. So I'm going to say Atlanta is my 4th team. So we've got. And then how would that match up with the
I'm not going to ask you for predictions because we know where you're going to go. You're going to be like Spencer. You're going to be Fairweather Newport fan. You're going to say Newport's going to beat the Lightning.
How are we going to see those semis, though? How are we going to see those semis?
It'll come down to. I mean, we'll have to do the seedings by periods
by periods and record.
Yeah, we'll have to do the seedings once the divisions finish up. But,
Philly, Dragons, Grizzlies, and Atlanta. That's tasty.
Make for a good playoff.
That's pretty wide open.
Yeah. Well, you heard it there. Brownell's predictions.
So historically, they haven't been great, but now I'm hoping they are great.
so Timmy, to wrap it up, your next match, I think it's May 14th, right?
It's after Worlds. I think it's May 16th.
May 16th. So what are you doing? Obviously, you're in Sunshine Land right now. What are you doing between now and then? And where can fans see you next? I think we also got U.S. Nationals in between, where you're defending your 2-time title now.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been getting ready for a lot. Honestly, I didn't go to Australia and New Zealand last month just to really try to get my body right. Like, it's a tough season, and if you really push it too hard early, you can limp across the finish line. I don't want to do that. I've done that before. It's not fun. But right now, getting some matches in Bermuda, it's a tough tournament. I'm actually playing Matthias first round. So if anyone wants to tune in, if there's any squash fans, NSL fans that want to see some Knicks, we're going to be hitting some Knicks. So tune into Bermuda. After that,
all Dragons matchup.
Yeah, all Dragons matchup first round. It's going to be nuts. But yeah, after that, we got U.S. Nationals, which is a huge deal, obviously, for me. That'll be streamed. It's in Philly. You got the World Championships after that. I may or may not play the Irish Open. And you got the British Open, which is a big deal. So mega tournaments coming up. Obviously, our second NSL match is everything for the playoffs. So hopefully we qualify for the playoffs. I would really love to be playing M squash. So much squash to be played. A lot happening. But tune in to the streams and watch some squash.
Good stuff, Timmy. And good to have you on the pod today. And good luck down there in Bermuda.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks, boys. Keep it up on the pod. I've been loving listening.
Let's
Got it,
go.
All right, Spencer. Another big weekend of the NSL again. April is your hell week, but after this weekend, you'll be done 5 of the 6 matches with 1 stellar match remaining to end the season, or the end the month. But let's talk about the 3 matches this weekend, the dates, where they're located, where people get tickets, who's playing. Give me everything.
Yep, you are 100% right, BG. It's April Anarchy here. We call it the
April Anarchy,
NSL.
right?
April Anarchy. Not March Madness, but April Anarchy. And busy month for us, but looking forward. I mean, we ran a weekend of 2 amazing events in Chicago and Newport. Looking forward to running the rest of the events throughout the rest of the month and bringing some awesome squash events to these cities. But first up, again, this Friday, probably tomorrow for most of you listeners out there, we've got Greenwich versus Lake Erie men's in Greenwich. Greenwich will be repping the same exact squad they did this past weekend in Newport with number 1 player Asal, Marsh, and Steinman. These 3 players should be, kind of getting used to each other's styles and coming together at a team at this point because they played 1 match together. Oftentimes we see in the NSL, the players, the more they play the format, the more they figure it out, the more they start to understand who is bringing certain skill sets to the table and whatnot. So I would expect a really, really good performance from Greenwich in this match. Also, just coming off the tails of losing to Newport and getting upset, I think that they'll be really motivated to win at home in front of their home crowd. This match will actually not be in Greenwich. This will be at Squash Bridge in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is the new SEA program there, doing great things for squash in the Connecticut area, teaching underserved families, children's of underprivileged families, how to play squash and helping them get into college and tutoring them, which is, they're doing really good work there. And they're coming up against Lake Erie Beacons, which with a slightly depleted roster. A couple of their top guys couldn't make it out to this match. So they've got Nick Spizzeri, the U.S. number 2 player, up and rising U.S. number 3 player, rising star from UPenn, BG, one of your guys over there. Legs feed the wolf, right?
Legs feed the wolf. Unfortunately, Nick and we didn't overlap. I get a lot of stolen valor when I tell people that I play a Penn squash. And like, oh man, you must have been really good. But when I was there,
they didn't see you play the league match against Joe Robinson a couple of weeks ago at the Spectre Center.
The first 5 points of every game against Joe, I was top dog. Let's just say that. My boast.
Your trickle boast, man. That's your signature shot. That's got to be. But anyway, yeah, we've got Spizzeri, David Belerjan, who is a very strong Canadian player, and he's just coming back from an injury, so it's great to see him playing again. He was one of our original NSL players in the first season. And then Ben Smith, another original NSL star from England, very talented player from Pontefract, good skills under James Willstrop there, obviously legend of the game. But, for me, Greenwich coming for blood in this one after losing to Newport. They're not taking any prisoners. They still have the ability to make the playoffs if they really steamroll. And I think that they'll be looking to do that against Lake Erie. What are your thoughts on this one, BJ?
Again, Greenwich needs to hear this. 4 points, a 4-0 win here changes the game. And if they're, Cam Pillion and those guys really keep that in mind, think about it, they'll have 5 period points. Technically, the guys they just lost to in Newport have 3. Man, wouldn't it be just so great if Newport somehow only, lost 3-1 after Greenwich wins 4-0 and they missed the playoffs after all this trash talk? I don't know. One can think.
It's certainly possible. They still have a chance. And, they were asking me after the match as well. They were like, do we still have a chance? I was like, yeah, you guys have a chance. You gotta win, but you gotta win. Like, you gotta win bad.
They need to win 4-0. Yeah. My take, they will win 4-0.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it's certainly possible, especially with Lake Erie coming in with the depleted roster. They're the away team. So yeah, I think certainly Greenwich is still certainly in the hunt.
I also think, Spencer, in the last 2 years, I don't think there's ever been a 4-0 win in a men's match.
The first season there were a couple, but they were pretty big mismatches. I don't know if we had any last season. Oh yeah, Chicago and Newport last season. Newport
Oh
absolutely
yeah, right.
steamed Chicago at home.
Were there any others?
I can't recall. But yeah, I mean this could be.
There's a championship. There's a championship last year.
Oh, I forgot about your championship.
Against Lake Erie, just saying.
It's been such a long time since last season. Yeah.
People don't forget.
4-0 against Lake Erie. I guess Lake Erie's used to losing 4-0, so.
There it is. I'm just saying. I didn't want to bring it up. Someone,
I guess I brought it up.
No, I totally did. It's okay. So anyway, what was your prediction?
I am predicting. You know what? I'm predicting
3-1.
I'm going to predict a 3-1 because
Solid.
obviously I have Newport still in the game here is my prediction to go through. So I'm gonna go 3-1 for Greenwich.
Okay. All right. On to the next one.
And the next match Saturday, this next weekend is Chicago at Louisville. Now this is a very interesting one because these are the two original NSL franchise teams playing in the first ever beta match. Louisville winning the first ever NSL match. I was on that team, the first ever NSL win.
No big deal.
Shout out to Louisville. And Louisville brings a pretty good roster to this home match. They've got their top guy, Leonel Cardenas from Mexico, and now they're bringing in a new player, Sam Osborne-Wild from England, and he's a solid player, very, very good technically, solid line and length, very accurate. I think a really good draft pick from Fernando and the Louisville Colts. And then they have Perry Malik, who did put on a great performance in his first match of the season against the Nashville Crushers. So I think a really, really solid roster for Louisville in this match. No real weak points. And then Chicago bringing back Gawad. We do know they're bringing back Gawad, but we're unsure of the rest of their lineup for this one. They're bringing a couple other of their bench players into the fold here, and they're undecided. Their players have some tournaments coming up, so they're still trying to figure it out. But they'll have their headliner Gawad for this one. And Chicago, for me, they're hot off their first win of the season, and Louisville defending their home turf. I'm going to go with Chicago on this one. I think that Chicago is going to kind of turn the tides here, and I think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
And maybe I'm giving Louisville too much credit here, but they're home. I think they're pissed about how the last match ended. And again, this is technically the first match where a division will be decided, right? Because it's the final match of the South, I guess. Is that the division?
This is the final match of the Central Division. So yeah, this will decide the division for sure.
And I'm gonna take Louisville 3-1, and they're gonna win the division because of that, because they're gonna have 5 period points. Chicago will then have 4, and
Nashville will have
4 or 3
Great.
exactly, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
here.
this is such a close division. I mean, if Chicago wins, they win outright. Obviously, if Louisville wins, they basically win outright. If it goes to a shootout, you have Louisville coming through with
Chicago would win no matter the result.
Yeah, Chicago would win as long as Chicago would win if it went to So yeah.
But I'm gonna go with Fernando here and the coaching. I mean, I have no idea who's coaching Chicago still. And Fernando, I think it's just gonna, between him and Leonel, I think those guys actually had some great chemistry. I saw that in the first match between Louisville and Nashville. So despite while they didn't get the win there, I think they have the pieces to bring it home. I mean, this Louisville roster is much better than the roster they had in the first match against Nashville. Yeah,
I think that you bring up some good points there with the tactics for Louisville. They honestly, Louisville didn't do much wrong in that first match. No. They just got a bit unlucky at the end, to be honest. That they could easily.
Andrew Douglas.
I mean, some might say they got cheated. But I mean, they definitely have that experience with Coach Fernando Valdez on their corner, and that could be the difference maker. But then Chicago, they got Gawad. They got Gawad, their top guy. I was pretty impressed with him in this past match in Chicago, and I personally think that he's going to bring them to victory. So I'm going to go with the Chicago win, and that's that's what I got.
All right. Well, we'll see who's right. It'll be good either way. It's good for the pod that we disagree.
Yeah, we need some. We can't be like predicting the exact same
Cookie
stuff here,
cutter.
BG. So
Yeah. All right. On
and
to
then
the final
our
one.
women's match. Onto our women's match for the weekend. We've got our first ever match over in Seattle on the West Coast. This is an exciting one for us, being the first NSL match in the West Coast in Seattle. Seattle bring their headliner Tina Gillis over, who was released by the Philadelphia Freedom last year, and picked up by the Freeze in the draft. And unfortunate scenario here, as Miriam Metwali, Seattle's number 2 player, had to actually pull out of this match. Her dad passed away last week during the El Guna. So prayers out to Miriam and her family from the NSL. Obviously, tragic, and we hope that she's hanging in there and recovering, and totally understandable that she needs some time to herself. Either way, Seattle having to find a replacement there, and they've brought on Asia Harris, who is a young and up-and-coming player in England. She is quite a powerful, tall, good reach. So I think she'll take well to the NSL format. She's very excited to play her first match. We've been speaking to her about it. And then they bring in local legend Layla Sedke, who grew up in Washington, born and raised, learned how to play squash there. So should be a great local interest for the crowd. And she's a very good player herself. She's a top 100 ranked player. So I think Seattle has a good squad going into the weekend, and they're coming up against the Lake Erie Beacons, who have Lucy Beecroft, who has been who has been a solid player for them for the last season, Alina Bushma, and Kira Marshall, who is from the UK, Alina from the Ukraine, but training in the US. I'm going to give Seattle this slight edge here because of their top player in, Tina Gillis posing a big threat. She's going to be playing a lot of minutes in this one, I think. It's going to be interesting to see how Lake Erie tries to combat Tina's attacking abilities here. And Tina, not always renowned for her attacking, but just a very, very solid physical player overall. So be interesting to see how, again, Lake Erie deals with that.
Yeah, we got to make sure that we put some respect on Tina's name. Tina Gillis, NSL champion, Philadelphia Freedom.
She is NSL champion, so no one will ever take that away from her.
No one will ever take that away from her. But when I look at this one, and again, sharing and Miriam, well, I was really sad to see that news. And obviously she's playing in the tournament in her home country, so I can only imagine. I can't imagine, honestly, what she's going through. So prayers to her. But I will say that Layla Sedke is sister to Penn squash legend Reham Sedke, and I know the way they play is very similar. Layla had a decent run. I think she lost in the final of the World Championship qualifiers actually as well. Or maybe it was the semifinal. So I think she's playing on top of her game. She's playing in her hometown. What I will give Lake Erie credit for is those three. I don't know if they actually played together, but they all rollovers from last year in the NSL. So they know the strategy. I really love Lucy Beecroft's game. Alina Bushman's having a great season on the PSA. Actually, she's had some very nice wins. So they have the experience, but I do think from what I hear too, Seattle is packing the house. And for those that have not been to Seattle, I've only been to Seattle once. I'm not going to say I'm the all-knower of Seattle squash. But I remember that one time that I went out, that place was awesome. The members were cool. I mean, and obviously knowing Ali, the owner of Seattle, and speaking to him and his clear passion for the game, I think the home crowd is going to take them. I know they lost their first match this season, 4-0. I think I'm going to say 3-1 for Seattle, but I think it's going to build a solid foundation for them as they go into to next year. Or again, they actually might still make the play. I mean, they need this to make the playoffs. So
it really will come down to Lake Erie's last match. If Seattle wins this, it will come down to that. So Seattle needs this win. I agree with you. I think that they're going to take it in their home, on their home turf here. Yep. And like you said, Seattle, very unique place for squash because of the kind of proximity or lack of proximity to other squash playing areas in the U.S. So I think that kind of causes a very, very extra tight-knit squash community over there, and really, really close support group. And I'm excited. I'll be going out to that one, actually.
Oh, no way. Let's go.
after the Greenwich match. I'm flying out there on Saturday, so I'm really excited to check it out and meet some of the local people there, talk to them about their squash community and how the NSL can help it grow. Because really, that's what we're hoping to do with all of our teams is really help these communities grow, create something that their communities can rally around and really get excited about. So yeah, I'm excited to check it out, and should be a great match. They've got a glass court there at the Seattle Athletic Club, so
Nice.
should look great on the stream. So anyone who's listening, definitely tune in. It's an earlier match on Saturday, or sorry, it's an earlier match on Sunday. It's actually at 10 a.m. in the morning in Seattle, so 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Perfect.
Yeah, so perfect for Eastern viewing. You can throw it on while you're having your brunch and your mimosa, BG.
No, I mean, it's like my NFL Sunday. I'm going to have my pizza, going to have my wings. Kids are napping.
Yeah,
Going to
there
have
you
my
go.
Nero wine.
Perfect. Definitely grab your glass of Chardonnay and have at it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see that match. And the good thing, so after this weekend, definitely at least one playoff spot will be decided. We already have one division decided on the women's side, so 2 playoff spots are clinched there. I think after this, the playoff picture will be getting a lot more clear. And Spencer, April Anarchy, it's fun. It's a great time to be an NSL fan.
Definitely, it's an exciting month, and everyone who's out there, definitely tune into these matches because it's going to be an exciting weekend, 3 days in a row of NSL team squash, and anything could happen here, BG. So obviously we've given our predictions, but these will go straight out the window once these players hit the court and start hacking that ball around. Timer starts.
Right. But I didn't even I forgot to mention the fact to tell the fans that we're not in the podcast. We're not in the Dakota studio, unfortunately, because I am tomorrow getting tooth surgery. So our normally slotted time, I'm replacing with tooth surgery. So I hope you all keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I'm going through this process. It should be super painful. And I might need to tell my wife, hey, it's going to take a week at least recovery from this tooth surgery. So I might not be able to do anything but watch the NSL. I don't know.
Well, that's right. You can kick your legs up and get some popcorn and, like you said, some Miro wine. Maybe we'll even get Miro to send you a little bit of a care package. So that you can. I don't know if you're allowed to drink alcohol during your recovery from these surgeries.
Help, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like a natural pain reliever, right?
Yeah. Get the right doctor.
Easy prescription.
All right. Well, so for those, again, check us out, NSL Sport on YouTube and Instagram, and we'll be posting a lot of content, especially as, Chicago finalizes their lineup, but it should be a fantastic weekend. Spencer, thank you for turning around. I know you've had a busy 72 hours from what it sounds like up in Newport. So thank you for accommodating me with my tooth surgery, but we'll be back in the Dakota studio next week to debrief on which is, I think, the busiest NSL weekend thus far.
That's right. We'll see you guys soon.
All right.
You say we won't get older, it'll be alright. We wait to change and then it's over.